Thanks to all of you. So it's not a goal play, but I wanted to, in a serious way, just for a moment or two. We have stuff to cover here, and you're wonderful to come on a Friday afternoon. I appreciate it very much. But really, you look at here as we enter August, I would say Mr. Trump's policies are succeeding. I would say the stock market, he's completely right. You've had a booming stock market. The economy, the economic engines aren't revving up maximum yet because the bill's not through yet. The bill's not really taken effect yet. But Mr. Trump has had his way, and the tariff story, which was supposed to be so apocalyptically bad, Emily, had turned out to be a nothing burger. We didn't have 20% inflation. We didn't have a deep recession. We've not had a massive stock market crash. The experts were wrong once again, and wait for it, Trump was right.
And I think the fine line here is that not only were many pundits on the left, for example, sort of shocked, and many registered by Washington Post, New York Times as being shocked, which I guess they should be applauded for that, but it's that they were rooting for the failure. And I think that's the most important takeaway that the American people need to understand, is that there was a bona fide wishing and hoping for the policies to indeed have a negative effect on the stock market and on the American taxpayer. And that's the whole point, that from those on the liberal left, they will stop at nothing to advance their ideological agenda or to confirm that they were right, even if it means the pain and suffering of the American people.
Last decent poll I saw, Joe Concha, Wall Street Journal poll, okay, almost half the people approved of Trump's economic policies. It was up something like 10 or 12 or 14 points where it was earlier this year in April when the tariff hysteria was at its most hysterical. What he's doing is in the Truth Social post, and I think it's an important post, he's saying to district courts, federal courts, Supreme Courts, do not mess with my tariffs. He used the international economic emergency. By the by, if that gets thrown out, he can use something else, but it'll take longer. He's just saying, don't do this. It's not necessary. I'm going to win anyway. And by the way, just all you're going to do is kill the stock market, which has been glittering even better than gold.
Absolutely. Apple up big today, for example. But to Emily's point, yes, we did have a media and we did have Democrats rooting for Trump's economic policies to fail because that's the only chance that Democrats have in 2026. If Trump's economic policies fail, then Democrats take back the House. We have Speaker Jeffries, and then we have impeachment in perpetuity, right? But you knew the tariffs are going to work. I even thought so in early April when everybody was apocalyptic, like you said, when Paul Krugman said, this is a very bad idea. I said, now this can't lose. This is going to happen.
Whatever he said, bet against it.
Yeah.
Trump has the upper hand right now. He has the upper hand on almost everything, but he also has the upper hand on the economy, does he not, Charlie?
I think without a doubt. And, and obviously, I think Joe is exactly right, and Emily is too, that all of this depends on whether this works. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, and Trump is not afraid to gamble. He's been gambling his whole life. He has gambling. He gambles for breakfast. I mean, it's amazing what he's willing to go out there with. But one way that he has absolutely already won is the fact that just look at what we're talking about today. What were we talking about a year ago? We were talking about like gender ideology and imagining stupid race arguments that don't exist for the vast majority of Americans. It's not, we were having all of these stupid, idiotic conversations. And Donald Trump is actually talking about peace in the Middle East, ending wars, a war in Russia. He's talking about tariffs. He's talking about remaking the economy in a way that's better for regular working people. He's talking about enforcing a border. He's talking about all these huge issues. And I think that, and you're right, the polling does show that most people support him. And the funny thing is, if you take his name out of the policies, it gets even higher because so much is.
By the way, I want to try this new. It's not a new theory, but I don't know. I launched it yesterday. Trump wants factories.
Yeah.
It's a very important point. A lot of this tariff stuff is creating incentives. Just build it here. You don't have to worry about tariffs. And if you look at the One Big Beautiful Bill, it has what's called immediate cost expensing. You can write off the cost of a new factory in 2 years. We've never had that before. Typically, building factories, 25 to 30-year write-offs. 2 years makes it cheap and easy to build new factories, which is what he wants, whether it's chips or autos or steel or technologies or you name it, as befits, as Laura Ingraham said to me on the show last night, this is what a superpower must be. But he wants factories.
Yeah, and if you talk to the small and medium-sized companies that have most of these factories in the United States, it's not just an immediate bump. It's a bump. Allowing to be able to do that allows them to actually hire people for 10 years, for 15 years. It's a long-term play.
And they're the ones who would do the building of the factories.
Right. And it's
not, the corporation may order it up.
It just allows them to invest in the company.
That's right. It's really a phenomenal thing. I don't think people really appreciate it. Emily, anyway, Emily, I want to go to you on this census business. I think he's on the right track. I have no idea what the legalities are. It would be an emergency census. It would rule out illegal immigrants, which is one way Democrats want to give themselves more House and Senate members than they deserve, at least more House members. So what you think?
Yeah, and back in 2020, there was significant litigation about the question of whether or not you are a U.S. citizen. And remember, the arguments for not including it were the fear-mongering, and it was about the climate. It was about the culture around those that didn't want to be, for some way, disenfranchised or somehow discriminated against, those that feared law enforcement and the authorities. That was the answer given. But that pales in comparison, and it has very skinny legs to stand on to begin with, but it pales in comparison to the concept that in this country, your vote is being diluted if there are those here that are counted in the census, not rightly so. Your vote is diluted if there are members in Congress from other states that are falsely representing Americans that don't exist, because what that does is dilute your vote and your congressperson. So the inverse of this is so deeply unconstitutional, I can't wait for this to hit the Supreme Court so they can affirm that not only is the emergency census constitutional, but the question of citizenship is fundamental to its efficacy.
By the way, that reminds me, Emily reminds me, Joe, if you have tens and tens of Democratic congressmen from Texas moving to Florida, does that give, moving to California rather, as they are, does that give California more House seats? Or would California have to throw them back and go? I'm just trying to understand this story. Senator Cornyn says the FBI is going to go out looking for these guys, sort of AFPB, where are these Texas legislators? I have not heard the FBI respond to that. But that could really play into the census. I don't want any illegals from Texas going to California and being improperly counted in a new census. Joe Concha.
It's a great point. And the 2020 census was wrong by their own audit. They said that. So I think Trump has very strong legs here to stand on, because why should we have to wait 10 years until 2030 for them to get it right? So if you just ask people just on the street, 9 out of 10 will say, yeah, illegal should not be in our census. And yeah, we should do a do-over if they said they got the first one wrong. It's pretty simple stuff.
Can we talk, while we're on the subject of law and order, Charlie, Mr. Trump is now going to use his federal power to try to bring safety and law and order to the District of Columbia, a.k.a. Washington, D.C., the deep state, okay? Now, I'm hoping that this works out, because I have big plans for him to come to New York. But let's do the Washington thing first, okay? What is it? And how is it going to impact? And he's just going to remove the authority. Now, the Congress runs the District of Columbia, if I'm not mistaken. They actually have statutory authority.
They have the authority.
But the president can exercise a good deal of authority. Will it help? Is he going to follow through? To what extent?
Yeah, I don't think that he can do it without cooperation from Congress, certainly. But it's a reminder of this sort of common sense agenda that President Trump has done wonders for Donald Trump, and what has done wonders for the Republican Party. It's not an ideological thing. It's a sanity thing. It's the idea that you have young people coming to work as an intern in their congressperson's office, whether you're Democrat or Republican. You don't want your kid to go get murdered in the federal city. And I love it when President Trump has truthed out these statistics showing the murder rates in a place like Washington, D.C. versus other capitals around the world. It's despicable. And the idea that we look at this and think that this is somehow acceptable, and that's not a Democrat or a Republican thing. It's just a sane thing. And Donald Trump wants to bring that same common sense eye to this that he does everything else.
A great nation should have a beautiful, peaceful, safe,
And by the
calm.
way, a woman should be able to walk down the street at night without having to fear for her life anywhere in any major, anywhere in America.
What's happened down there, Emily? I mean, really, I've lived there on and off a whole bunch of times down through my career. Sometimes it's absolutely beautiful. Other times it's a big mess. There's always a Democratic mayor, virtually always a Democratic mayor. But what's really changed?
Well, I think it's the same constellation, the same recipe that we've seen in all of these severely Democratic cities, where you couple a feckless mayor, you couple a corrupt environment with hamstrung law enforcement, prosecutors that fail to prosecute, and sentencing changes that put all of these recidivists back on the streets. You have these young minors that are contributing, that are they're committing horrible, violent crimes, and they go to family court. They're not only they're not prosecuted as adults, but they're not even in the criminal justice system. They are going through family court. You have now a quality of life that has been normalized to the tune of stolen cars all the time, and oh, well, this is just how it always is. Don't forget to not wear your Canada Goose Parker when it's sub-0 degree weather there, because it's going to get stolen. And all of the Congress people and all of the people that come in for these administrations have been sending their children to other schools or saying, well, it's just part-time, it's not really my home. So without a culture and identity of one that supports law and order that we didn't have until President Trump set foot there, that says, I live here, this should be a real neighborhood. And by the way, if this was a state, it would be the #1 homicide rate state in the country 4 years running.
Wow.
You are right that it is patently unacceptable, but I think the recipe is clear for how to thwart it. And the first step is federalizing law enforcement there, like President Trump has
Joe
said.
Concha, just before we go out, you all will come back to the next segment, but is it a stretch or too much of a stretch? If Mandami the commie wins in New York and he wants to defund the cops and he wants to end, special police segments, special police battalions that are going to keep us safe, can we stretch this whole business? I know it's Washington, it's kind of close to New York. You could move it up the highway just a little bit, I-95. I mean, we're going to need some help, too.
Wouldn't be more ridiculous than some of these congressional districts.
There you go. It's like redistricting. Thank you, Charlie. That is wonderful. How about redistricting and restating law and order right up the East Coast, which is what we need?
Yeah, if this lunatic ends up getting elected, as it stands right now, he's up 20 points, right? And as long as this thing stays fractured and you have 4 people running, I don't see what stops him now at this point, because the energy, at least in New York City, is with the far left, and he absolutely is that as an anti-Semitic communist. Yay, New York.
You're right about the 20 points, so I got to read this. This is what Princess Portia said. The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as a gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It is twice blessed, New York and Washington, D.C. Emily Compagno, Charlie Hurt, Joe Concha, the superstar panel is going to stick around.